Listen to this exchange between Wyatt and Sheriff Chris Nanos.
Well, I don't know the FBI director. Never met him. So my relationship is what we see or hear as you do on the news.
Sheriff Nanos has never met Kash Patel. That's the quote. A 17-year-old from Canada got the sheriff of Pima County, Arizona, to admit that on the record.
Hey everyone, I'm Ashley Banfield, and this is Drop Dead Serious. Well. It took a 17-year-old guy from Canada, who is a rising senior in high school, to put Chris Nanos, the sheriff of Pima County in Arizona, to the test. And to make some very big headlines in the Savannah Guthrie, Nancy Guthrie missing persons case. Sheriff Nanos hasn't granted a lot of interviews, and certainly very few to the major networks and the big podcasts of late. We are 6 months into the case of Nancy Guthrie with still no answers, no leads certainly that have been made public, and no solutions as to where she is and where Porch Guy is. But there's so many questions, right, still afoot. And looking back all these months, a lot of questions about maybe there have been some missteps along the way. And this young...
6 months into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, with the FBI director having personally visited Tucson, with a joint task force in place, with the president himself weighing in on the case.
With the FBI director, because this is a really high-profile case, right? Really high-profile case. The FBI director's been in Tucson, met with this team. You know, there's this joint task force between the Pima County Sheriff's Department and the FBI. They've been working on this for 6 months, and the FBI director was there. And the president weighed in on this case.
The man leading the investigation has never had a single conversation with the man overseeing the federal agency supposedly helping him solve it.
Hate to say, the president said like 6 months ago, oh, we're real close to, resolving this. My words, not his, but no, that was not the case. And what the heck information was the president getting? And I only assume he was getting it from his FBI director.
On February 1st, Nancy Guthrie vanished from her home. That's the tragic core of this story. The surrounding chaos of leadership and law enforcement dysfunction that followed is what we're here to examine. A 17-year-old journalist got the sheriff of Pima County to say the quiet part out loud.
Yes, so Kash Patel did an interview on Fox News where he had claimed that if the FBI, the bureau that he oversees, had obtained access to the scene earlier, that they would have been able to help with more forensic evidence and kind of get more on-the-ground investigation done than if it was just the Pima County Sheriff's Department on their own, which Chris Nanos took almost offense to in a way. He said Kash Patel is misinformed. He said when Kash Patel goes out there and makes statements like the one that he did in that Fox News interview, it doesn't help anybody. He said it hurts the case.
He criticized the sheriff's department for its handling of DNA evidence. The sheriff hits back. He said the FBI was, quote, promptly notified by both our department and the Guthrie family, adding, we remain committed to a thorough, coordinated, and fact-based investigation. That's the official line. But then the 17-year-old Wyatt Sharp asked the sheriff a direct question.
He said that he has never spoken to the FBI Director Kash Patel, which if you're having this public back and forth in the media, what sense does it make to not call the person who is overseeing the investigation, not just any other case, but one that has captivated the nation, if not the world?
He has never spoken to the FBI director. That information gap between the sheriff and Patel reveals a much deeper breakdown. This is what happens when leadership in an investigation is defined by clashing egos and a refusal to communicate, and the cost is measured in missing persons, not political points. Before we go deeper into what the documents and the interview actually show, make sure you're subscribed to Project Cold Case. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. Let's start at the top. FBI Director Kash Patel said on a podcast that his agency was, quote, kept out of the investigation for 4 days.
1 year. But I will say this, he scored the interview with Sheriff Chris Nanos, and he asked a lot of really pointed questions that I think the sheriff might not have been expecting, because there were big, long pauses in many of the answers that the sheriff was going to. I think maybe the sheriff thought, it's a high school project, this will be a breeze.
That's a moral refrain you're going to hear repeated. Optics over evidence. Optics over evidence. Optics over evidence. Every major decision in this case seems designed to shape a narrative, not to uncover the truth. When a police chief is more concerned with covering his own political flank than with securing the scene, the trail goes cold. And that's exactly what's happened here. This isn't a partisan attack on the sheriff or on the FBI director. It's a forensic examination of a failure of basic communication and competence. You have two leaders, each more concerned with pointing fingers at the other than with figuring out what happened to an 84-year-old woman. Director Patel claimed the FBI's lab was better, that they could have gotten the video days earlier. The sheriff counters that the FBI was notified without delay. You have a story about a man who was willing to weaponize the FBI for his own ends, appointing officials who are not just unqualified, but dangerously partisan. And you have a story about a local sheriff whose ego, his own team says, is his Achilles heel.
We put it.
But the core membership has been there from day one, and they continue to meet daily.
Huge
These
headline.
decisions are not just procedural missteps. They are the actions of a man more concerned with optics than with solving a case. And now, at the heart of the matter, we have a law enforcement leader who has never spoken to his federal counterpart. A jurisdictional disconnect that has, by his own admission, allowed the investigation to stagnate. Meanwhile, the core investigative team remains.
Well, our relationship is a good relationship. I mean, these are tough times. But no, I've not spoken with Savannah recently. She has my contact
He said
number.
to the Arizona Republic it was released too early. He told a local station that suggestion was silly. The sheriff admitted they are using forensic genetic genealogy to trace the
A
DNA.
total mess. And that is within 36 hours he released the scene. He said there's nothing to see here. There's no cause for alarm in the community. And you know, we've stopped the search for Nancy Guthrie. And I thought, what the heck were you thinking? Did you press him on those
That's
early...
a process that can take years. But he also said he doesn't know if the family is frustrated with law enforcement. He has zero indication. His deputies have no
bad
confidence in him.
decisions?
He, to be honest, what I tried to do was stay away from things that he's been asked about, you know, a bajillion times. And so he had said to the Arizona Republic that he thought the scene was released too soon. But then later he told KVOA that he thought any kind of suggestion otherwise was silly, was the word that he had used. And so the kind of angle that I took with this was
Have you ever
highlight...
spoken to the FBI director? And the answer was a
The
flat
suspect
no.
is still in the Tucson area, referring to that ransom note that had quoted as outside Tucson. He said, well, absolutely, that's still a possibility. So I think if they haven't even ruled the suspect out of the Tucson area, which is, you know, not a massive, massive area, especially where Nancy Guthrie's home is located, that speaks, I think, to the broader
Wyatt
uncertainty
Sharp,
with the
a
investigation as a whole.
17-year-old journalist,
Kind of
asked the sheriff about the physical evidence. He asked about the flower pots near the door, the blood pattern. The sheriff declined to answer. He said he wouldn't talk about physical evidence. 6 months in, and the department is refusing to answer basic questions about the scene. The sheriff's own story has changed on whether the scene was
Been
released
sort of
too
toiling
soon.
over for a while, and that is that it doesn't take that long to separate, you know, mixed DNA. Otherwise, we'd never, ever solve rape cases. Those are mixed cases. Multiple murders, those are mixed cases. So it doesn't take that long. What does take a long time is the process of forensic genetic familial genealogy. And that's
Sheriff Nanos has never met Kash Patel. That's the headline. The tragedy is that a missing person case has been reduced to a political football. While the leaders point fingers and protect their own, the clock is ticking. And for Nancy Guthrie and her family, the question remains who is actually investigating this case. And if it's not the sheriff and it's not the FBI director, then who? If you think this investigation has been mishandled, share this video. If you think the truth is being buried, subscribe to Project Cold Case and turn on notifications. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the
recently.
evidence.
He did make a joke, though. He said she has my contact information, the whole family has my contact information, and then he said practically the whole world does too, including you, referring to me because I reached out to him for the interview.
very
but there
telling
have
how
been
he
reports,
answered it.
right,
We'll play
there
that
was
in a bit. But let's get to the headlines that really you were able to make in this interview.
Yeah.
He went after Kash Patel, the FBI director. So what did you ask and what did he say? Yeah, I mean, he does have an ego, and that's not me. That's a lot of sources. Many of the people who work for him and people who are no longer working for him say that that is his Achilles, that he just has such an ego and that he's rewarded people on the force with big jobs. Thank you, everyone, for ready for
Thank you,
prime
everyone,
time.
for
You know, watching 1-800-CALL-FBI if you know anything about the Guthrie case, if you know anything about that guy who was seen on the porch camera, if you have heard anything, because loose lips sink ships, and often it happens months after the crime. 1-800-CALL-FBI. I'm Ashley Banfield, and the truth isn't just serious, it's drop dead serious.